today, the House and the Senate voted to release the FBI Epstein files. And the House voted something like 427 to 1, and I believe the Senate voted unanimously on this. And if you're not paying attention, it's very easy to think, wow, this is a really good example of the Democrats and the Republicans finally working together, finally coming together in a way that is bipartisan. In fact, what that tells me is that Democrats and Republicans knew that this was the right thing to do from the get-go. You don't get unanimous votes in the Senate and 427 to 1 if there's not a broad consensus that this is the right thing to do. I mean, these are the kind of votes that like World War II got. And so the reason I think that this is important, however, is because just a few days ago, not months, not weeks, just days, there was the President of the United States claiming that this was a hoax by the Democrats. Just days ago, there were congressional Republicans parroting this same line. In fact, if you think about the fact that Adelita Grijalva was held up for over 50 days because Mike Johnson didn't want to swear her in order to expose these files. Now, let's think about what happened. Once she was sworn in, she walks over, she signs the discharge petition. This basically says we have a majority of House members, all the Democrats and 4 Republicans, to force this to a vote. But the big question is, why in the hell didn't the Republicans want this discharge petition signed before Grijalva signed it? And so in as much as we can say, wow, this is great, all the Congress is on the same page on this, the reality is the only reason that they're willing to do this is because Donald Trump told them so. We know he's in the files. He's going to lie about it. He's going to deny it, or he'll release, or they'll release, redacted files. Whatever's going to happen, it really doesn't matter to me. Because again, if it was the right thing to do, it was right whether or not Trump told you to do it. And so this underscores a really important point, because right now there is this interesting debate going on in the Republican Party. And the question is, for many of them, should we go the Nick Fuentes route or should we go the MAGA route? And I think this question, frankly, is bullshit. It's a false choice, and I'll tell you why. There is no difference in MAGA and Nick Fuentes. Absolutely none. We're talking about Nazi versus Diet Nazi. And so this idea that like, well, you know, one is worse. I mean, I even see people on Twitter, Republicans, say, we can't go the direction of Nick Fuentes. That's not right for our party. Well, nothing has been right for this party. And one of the things that I think that we need to be really cautious of as a society is thinking about the ways in which the Overton window has shifted so far to the right that things are becoming normalized that aren't. And when I say the Overton window, what I mean is that the range of things that is considered acceptable politically is really, really, really out of the mainstream right wing at this current moment. Let's think about this. Marjorie Taylor Greene right now happened to be right about one thing, and all of a sudden she's getting redeemed. And it's not to say that people don't have the capacity to change and to grow, but one of the things that we're not going to do is normalize MAGA. I'm seeing this left and right. And in fact, we don't have to go that far in history to think about this. This was the same thing that happened with George W. Bush. I remember people saying things like, oh, well, you know, Bush was so much better than Trump. And yeah, okay, I mean, in some ways, but Bushism led to this. Bush stole a whole election from black voters in Florida. Bush watched a major city drown and did nothing. Bush launched a war on false pretenses and invaded a country, a sovereign nation, and killed hundreds of thousands of people. Bush didn't cause the Great Recession, but he certainly threw gasoline on the fire, and his policies didn't help. And we don't even have to just simply think about how Bush led to Trump. Newt Gingrich comes in the early 90s and essentially says, let's make congressional races national. Let's make them nasty. Let's make them partisan. Let's be aggressive. And it doesn't start with Gingrich in the early 90s. We can go back to Ronald Reagan, deindustrialism, the racism, the lies about the welfare queen, the left and right attacks on social welfare programs, on marginalized communities, on racial and ethnic minorities, on cities. And so I hope that as we think about where our politics is going, we always keep this in mind. We are not going to normalize MAGA, because if we just think that Donald Trump alone is the problem, then we're not looking hard enough at what's really going on.